Welcome to the Executive Functioning for Parents and Kids YouTube channel. So today's discussion is women and executive functioning and how historically women have often been expected to learn executive functioning skills at a greater rate than most men have. And a lot of time women, whether it be mothers, sisters, daughters, etc., have taken over those executive functioning skills so that men didn't have to. And this has prevented men from gaining important life skills that will help them through building businesses, attending school, and all of those other things that are really important in their own lives. But also, it prevents them from being equal, helpful partners. This is something we all have to catch up on. Women need to hold men more responsible and be pushing back a little to help them and force them to learn those skills. Even if they won't learn it from us because they don't want to hear it, forcing them to figure it out on their own. So let's talk about that. This morning I was having a discussion with my neighbor and we got talking about like some of the executive functioning stuff that we do. Things like looking around and figuring out what needs to be done at home, planning, cleaning, scheduling things, that sort of thing. We're talking about this and how frustrating it is that often men do not have these skills. We really run into this issue where women have been, even neurodivergent women, have been forced to learn those executive functioning skills where men haven't. Women have generally stepped up and done the executive functioning for men in so many ways. Like if you're ADHD and you have poor executive functioning skills, you're gonna have poor executive functioning skills and it's gonna be hard for you regardless. But you can learn them and you can do them and you can find workarounds and ways to cope. And so women, I think, traditionally have been forced to do this because of the expectations on us. And men haven't. So this is something culturally that we can change, and we can change it when we're raising boys. I have 3 boys, 100% trying to change this and teach them those executive functioning skills and force them to do those things because I'm not going to take over and do it. It's an important conversation for us to have with our spouses, with other men in our life. This hasn't been a fair divide, and it's not good for men. It's not good for men to not learn how to do these things. These are important parts of life. And I've seen some guys that have really good executive functioning skills. But I also think a big part of that isn't just being neurotypical. It's also just having the training and the skills that were taught to them as young people that they had to learn by virtue of whatever they were doing. And a good example is probably a lot of men that have businesses probably either have decent executive functioning skills or they have a woman behind the scenes that are in jobs that can help support that. And when you have the finances to do that, like let's say you're rich and you're starting a business, you can hire all of the people you need to help you out. I personally started 3 small businesses on my own and had to figure everything out. So that meant that I had to learn all of those things as I was going. And eventually, if my business earned enough money, I could hire someone to help me. But like I've learned those things because I was forced to. A really good example, and we have an amazing scouts leader that works with all the boys. This particular guy is just on the ball, just schedules out the whole year. He's got like really well thought out plans. When they go on a trip, like let's say they do an overnight trip and they take the kids, not all the parents go, but some of them will, but he will send regular updates with photos of what's going on. He doesn't forget that there's people at home wondering, hey, are my kids okay? You know, I need an update. My kids are probably not going to give it to me. Ideally, we want to encourage boys to do this, and girls. I think men need more expectations. Maybe if you keep the expectations for me the same, but then you increase the expectations for men, I have to do less as a result. And we can be more effective partners because we all have the executive functioning skills to do the things. And so when one person's having a hard month or hard week, the other person can step up and help a little bit more because they know what to do. They know what needs to be done. They have the ability to do it. They have the skills to do it. And the same vice versa. And that's a good partnership right there. Really important for me to teach my boys all of these executive functioning skills. And so I often will send my boys back to do things that they haven't done correctly because they didn't plan it out or didn't think through the whole task. And so I will send them back to do it and fix it. And I will often do it while they're in the middle of video games, so they have to pause them, usually because that's when I'm noticing it, but also just because, all right, well, sometimes the things we want to do get interrupted because of the things we didn't do properly to begin with. So there's consequences for that. That's a natural consequence. It's okay. I'm not getting mad. I'm not yelling. Your son is extremely helpful. He gets extra points for helping, and he is really keen and thoughtful about trying to make sure he does something to help take things off mommy's plate. However, he also has executive functioning skills issues, just like mama. So he will forget little parts of the job. So for example, he gets a lot of points if he goes and helps clean up manure out of the horse field. So we have a UTV. So he'll drive and he'll pick up manure and put it in the back of the UTV and then bring it to dump. In the back of the UTV before he started, I said, if you're going to do that, you need to take everything out of the back of the UTV so it doesn't get dirty, obviously. And so he takes it all up. I have a tripod in there, a bucket, a couple just other little things like rope and stuff. So he pulls them all out and he puts them on the grass, and it was raining. So my tripod is a piece of photography equipment, which it's going to be okay if it gets wet, but potentially might get rust or something. So not ideal. And so he finished up and he went to park the UTV, and I was like, you need to get everything you put on the ground and put it back in there. And so he did. And then the next morning I walked out and I noticed that there's still like a little bit of manure he didn't like shovel out of the back of the UTV. And he has put my tripod and the bucket and everything right on top of it. So I sent him a text message and I'm like, you need to come outside. He was in the middle of playing video games. I was like, you need to stop, come outside and clean off everything you put back there. So he did, theoretically. And then later I noticed he left my tripod over by the water. So I assume he was thinking maybe he rinsed them off with a hose. But whatever the case was, he left it out in the rain again. And I was like, okay, man, come on. So sometimes our impulse in this particular instance, I actually moved it inside. But in a lot of instances, even though I see it and I could move it, I will call them and have them come back and move it themselves. And the reason is I want them to do the physical work, even if it takes me a little bit of mental work, because 3 kids is a lot to keep up with. Ideally, my husband would be able to do those things as well. He's getting better. A lot of people aren't familiar with this. A lot of people are used to the woman just taking over and doing things. Mom's got this. I do a lot of like going behind people and fixing things. That is not fair to me. And so we need to start training boys and men to do this, because this is this is so exhausting. That is the stuff that gets you jobs and keeps you jobs. And you know, even if it's hard for us, we have to learn coping mechanisms. And sometimes we learn those the hard way. I just hold everyone responsible for those tasks as much as possible. Again, sometimes I just take care of stuff, but I will always mention it. And I always try to have some sort of natural consequence if there's something substantial that I have to do. Generally, I have kids come back and fix things, like I need you to turn off your lights. But we do want to teach some of these skills. I hope that was helpful. Again, big difference between men and women here in terms of what we're forced to learn. And I think we're doing a disservice to our young men. Alrighty, have a good day. Take care.